We're going to take a 99% confidence interval of the chips eaten by second graders at a party. We're going to consider these second graders a random sample, and the standard deviation is 5 chips. So, first thing we want to do is we're going to define the parameter and the population. So the population equals all second graders. The parameter is going to be mu, which equals the average number of chips that second graders eat. Alright. Then we need to come up with, and we are doing a 99% confidence interval. And we're going to call this a Z confidence interval, because even though it's the only confidence interval we know right now, at some point we're going to have others. So we're going to name it. So that's step number 1, to name our parameter and our population. So this all comes under step number 1. Number 2, sorry, that should be still under number 1. Number 1 is done, so number 2, we need to do the conditions. So first off, is this an SRS? And the answer is yes. It's stated in the problem. The next part is we need independence. So when I count this, there are going to be 10, and 10 times 10 is 100, which is less than all the second graders. And the third thing we want is normality. Now, in our problem, if I go up to the top, it says nowhere in here does it say anything about normality. And since we only have 10 numbers, we can't use the central limit theorem. So the other way that we are going to check is doing the box plot. And so when I do a box plot on my calculator, it looks like this, which means we have no outliers, and it is approximately symmetric. Therefore, we're going to say approximately normal. Now, in the grand scheme of this, doing the math, even though there's a math class, is probably the least important part of the problem. It's making sure all the other stuff is good. And so when we do this, we're going to take the average here, and the average of these 10 numbers was 8.8. So in step number 3, we're going to start to do the calculations. So I got 8.8 plus the standard deviation was 5. So we got 5 over the square root of 10 because n was equal to 10. So we got x bar plus z star plus or minus z star sigma over the square root of n. So all we need now is what z star is. Well, if there's 99% in the middle, that means there's only 1.5% out here, and there's 0.5% out here. So I'm going to do inverse norm . 0.005 and we'll find out what the Z star is. And it turns out to be 2.576. Of course, I didn't write down the 5. So we got 2.576. When I do the subtracting, I get 4.73. Now, even though we know no one's going to eat 4.73 chips, this is an average, so we leave the decimals in there, to 12.87. And once I have my interval, step number 4 is to interpret the results. I am 99% confident that the average chips a second grader eats is between 4.73 and 12.87 chips. And so that's my example for a Z confidence interval.